I've got my friend Stefan Padfield. Stefan's the executive director of the Free Enterprise Project at the National Center for Public Policy Research. He and his team, they work tirelessly to keep American corporate life free from woke nonsense. That's right alongside the work that we're trying to do here as well. So Stefan, man, we appreciate the work you guys do so much, and welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me back, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, and really appreciate the work you are doing as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, brother. Hey, let's begin here with the letter that you sent last week to Morgan Stanley. So you demanded some answers. Apparently, they're continuing the DEI nonsense, not really getting with the program, it seems here, Stefan. What was the circumstance surrounding this letter?
Right. So the background was that I did an interview, and one of the issues was the companies that are looking like they're walking back their commitments to illegal DEI, but in fact are just rebranding or otherwise hiding what they're actually doing. And after that interview, I got an email from a whistleblower who basically said, "Look, you should look into Morgan Stanley. I work there. They're still pushing this stuff. They still have, compensation bonuses tied to, diversity factors." And so then I took a moment to look into Morgan Stanley and found a number of other concerning issues. I mean, just one off the top of my head, and I can pull the letter up and we can get into more detail. But one I think that you and your viewers will likely be interested in is, Morgan Stanley is a platinum partner of the Human Rights Campaign, and they, scored 100 on that Corporate Equality Index, which brings with it all sorts of concerns. Everything from, have you actually done your fiduciary duty and determined whether you actually believe a person can be born in the wrong body, or that a man can become a woman simply by saying so, all the way to bias in terms of not filling out Alliance Defending Freedom's viewpoint bias survey, right? So there were 7 total questions, and again, I can go through them in detail, but that was the sort of gist of what we were getting at. And I have received a reply just yesterday. I received a reply from Morgan Stanley, and it was basically a very blanket response, essentially boiling down to, we don't have quotas, which wasn't even a specific question that we asked.
Yeah.
And so I have followed up, because I think at this point these corporations know well enough not to have express quotas, right?
Yeah.
The problem is, are they still in fact discriminating illegally through less obvious means, and raising other issues that would go into sort of woke governance? And so I've replied and said, I appreciate the response. Sometimes you just get stiff-armed by these companies,
Right.
and ghosted. So the fact that they're actually engaging at all is certainly
Good
to
sign.
be, yeah, it's a good sign. But I said, it doesn't look like you've actually answered any of our specific questions, and said, look, let us know in a couple of days if you're interested in engaging further. But if not, then we're going to have to, look into some other avenues, because we do believe that these issues, these questions, are material to shareholders from a bottom line perspective and broader perspectives.
Yeah. I think it would be great, Stefan, if you could actually give our listeners kind of a taste of some of these specific issues. You mentioned those 7 questions. What are some of the ways that you really kind of specifically threw down the gauntlet?
Sure, I'll walk through quickly and then we can pick up on what specifically you want to get into. So
Yeah.
one is,
Yeah.
Morgan Stanley still has its commitment to diversity and inclusion. And one of the issues that we've really been pushing at the Free Enterprise Project is, are you actually checking the return on investment, the ROI of those expenditures? There's a lot of evidence to suggest that this whole trope of diversity is good for business is not, in fact, empirically supported. And in fact, if you push it through sort of forced demographic diversity, it actually can undermine performance. So you would think one of the most obvious things a business would do is to set up a way to measure the ROI of its investments in such a thing like diversity and inclusion. So we ask, what are you doing on that front? Are you getting that data? Do you have it? Then the question about, does Morgan Stanley still count diversity as a factor in awarding bonuses, which is not the same thing as, do you have quotas, right? You can not have quotas and still count it as a factor. And that goes back to a Wall Street Journal story that back in March that said that was still going on. There was a Republican attorneys general letter asking about these issues, and have really found nothing in terms of a response. So we ask, what is Morgan Stanley's response to this letter? We reference a couple of organizations that you and your viewers are likely familiar with. So 1792 Exchange has rated Morgan Stanley a high risk. We ask
Yep.
whether Morgan Stanley has done anything to evaluate and address the concerns, because those 1792 exchange does a great job of breaking out specifically why they rate the company a high risk. Alliance Defending Freedom gives Morgan Stanley an 8% on its Viewpoint Diversity Score Business Index. So again, we
Wow.
ask, has Morgan Stanley evaluated and addressed the specific concerns? We have the question about the human rights campaign, basically a two-part question. I'll just read it quickly. The bottom line question one is, has Morgan Stanley in fact concluded that it agrees with the propositions that a child can be born in the wrong body, or that a man can become a woman simply by saying so? And I continue to advocate for the position that it is a breach of duty, because this is a business decision, right? Are you going to be a partner of HRC? Are you going to respond to their survey? Those are business decisions, unless you're going to characterize them as charitable contributions, which they haven't. So you should be making a fully informed business decision, which would seem to include whether or not you actually agree with the positions that HRC takes. And then the second part is, will Morgan Stanley either sever ties with HRC or at least demonstrate some ideological balance by cooperating with ADF's survey, right? That would be a way to again, show some viewpoint neutrality if you want to engage in these surveys. And then finally, we say that getting 100% on the HRC's CEI at least tees up the possibility of discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And we set forth some legal cases, Supreme Court cases, that suggest that. And so we ask simply, does Morgan Stanley agree with our assessment? And if not, why not? So that's essentially a rundown of the 7 questions, which again, a blanket response of we don't have quotas really doesn't get at any of those.
Absolutely. And that's really where I want to go to next here, Stefan. You have done your due diligence, you followed up with them. Is there any hope that they might follow up again, or do you get the sense that they're just they see this as kind of a nuisance, they're just trying to get out of it a little bit? What do you expect from them? Do you expect another response back?
I'm always hopeful, but my experience also suggests that one needs to be prepared for everything from, ghosting to, basically non-responses that appear to be responses. So I do continue to be hopeful. I do think there is a vibe shift, if you will, that even corporations that have not engaged in good faith in the past or thought they could just stiff-arm conservatives are changing their tune. So time will tell. I think if I had to bet on what the response will be, I doubt they're going to give us anything more than what they've responded with. And so, we take these issues seriously enough, from a shareholder bottom line perspective and a free market liberty perspective, that, we'll continue to push. So whether that be, applying more sunlight through publicity, might even be a books and records request, because we are a shareholder, so we can use the court system to pursue more answers. But we'll keep pushing. And again, I do sincerely hope we get to sit down at the table, because we're coming at this from a good faith basis. And all we're really looking for at the end of the day is to move the needle. Just move the needle back to neutrality. You don't need to do everything, that we might recommend in a perfect world, but show us something that you're serious about backing away from this, woke insanity.
Right now, Stefan, we actually here at FISM currently in the midst of a campaign where we're trying to hold one of our former buy list companies accountable for their misuse of investor funds. We have a petition ongoing right now. I know you value this same work. Let me ask you this as we close our time here. Why is this work of keeping companies accountable so necessary?
Well, it's particularly important right now because I think there's been a sense in some quarters of the conservative movement that somehow we've won, right? We've gotten some great support from the Trump administration. There's been some powerful executive orders. We've seen companies backtrack, right? There's been successes for the past 6 months. The problem is that really on some level, we've just scratched the surface. And the leftists, these woke activists who I think can fairly be described, at least in part, as neo-racist, neo-Marxists, they have been embedded for a long time. And it is going to take time, and it's going to take work, and it's going to take continued vigilance to really root those individuals out, expose them, and get these companies back to the business of doing business. The thing that I find so frustrating is that the goals that they say they want, right? Equality, opportunity, unity, inclusion. Those are things that can be achieved. And I think most of us, if not all of us, agree are worthwhile goals, but they're going about it in a way that is completely neurotic. It's the exact opposite of getting there. So the hope continues to be that we have real fundamental change, but it's going to take continued vigilance, continued activity.
Well said. Stefan, where can our listeners find a copy of your letter and follow your work?
Sure. Easiest thing to do is just go to nationalcenter.org. I'm a part of the Free Enterprise Project. We have all our press releases. All the links there are easily available. And folks can also follow me on X at Stefan Padfield.
It's awesome. Stefan, we appreciate you so much, brother, the work that you do and also taking time out of your very busy day to come join us and tell me and our listeners what's going on. Thank you, Stefan. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Yeah, appreciate it, brother. Folks, that's Stefan Padfield. Boy, what a great time it was on the show today. Grateful for each and every one of you, and God willing, we'll do it again tomorrow. Until then, remember, everything you have belongs to the Lord. Let's be found good and faithful stewards with everything that God has given to us. I'm Seth Udinsky on behalf of the Studio A team here at FISM. We appreciate each of you, and God willing, we'll see you tomorrow for more Financial Issues. Have a great day.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.